Hi, I'm Doug McKinlay for Adorama TV. Superb, beautiful, smooth, silky, and flawless. These are just some of the superlatives used by photographers when discussing one of photography's best devices. What is it? It's bokeh, that out-of-focus quality of an image usually obtained by fast lenses. Now the term bokeh is just a Japanese word for blur. Back in the day, it was just background blur. When shooting portraits, use a smaller aperture to try and get a little bit of blur behind your subject to separate them from that background. However, with bokeh, we're looking at shards of light in behind your subject, nicely, softly focused as well, and that's the difference between the two. Simply, it's those spears of light in a soft focus setting that gives us the bokeh. But how do we achieve this bokeh, you might ask? Well, surprisingly, not that hard. We want to start with a fast lens, ideally, a 1.4, 1.8, or 2.8 even. And these are usually the fast primes, usually in the range of 21 to 85 millimeters. But if you don't have one of these lenses, don't fret. We have a hack for that. Now, it's the shape of the diaphragm blades in your lens that creates the shape of the bokeh. Lenses with circular diaphragm blades will create circular points of light. Lenses with octagonal or hexagonal blades will create shapes following those patterns. Now once you've chosen your lens, for us it's a 24mm 1.4, you're almost ready to go. Now with these short prime lenses, we want to get quite close to our subject, with our points of light for our bokeh about twice the distance in the background. I'm also using a tripod because I want everything to be stable, but I also want to make sure my focus is exact. Now, when we're shooting at 1.4 or 1.8 or even 2, the focus is going to be very narrow. So it doesn't take much of body movements to throw the focus out. So you're going to get a better focus if you're mounted to a pod, and if needs be, use a cable release. Now when you're first starting to do this kind of stuff, what I suggest you do is you set yourself up and then you shoot through the range of f-stops from 1.4 or 2.8 up to f8 or even f11. That way you've got a series of images, and then when you review them, you can see how that aperture changes and the bokeh changes behind it. It's a very good exercise. Now, I primarily work in the great outdoors, so I'm at the mercy of the light around me. Now, ideally, when I'm doing pictures where I want to include a bit of natural bokeh, I'm looking for places where that sun is going to create little hotspots behind my subject. So you have to sort of scout around a little bit and maybe wait for the time of the day to be right for you. I find it works better when the sun is directly overhead and creates those hot spots behind your subject. Now don't forget, with these kind of images, whether you're shooting people or nature, sometimes a little bit of fill-in flash really helps lift the picture. It can actually help you create that three-dimensional sort of feel to your image by separating your subject from that background. No matter how much you try though, sometimes Mother Nature does not want to cooperate. Now, the sky for us today right now is starting to look a little bit flat and boring, and we're losing a bit of light. But I brought along a string of lights to help us out with this demonstration. Now, these are just a string of old Christmas lights, and we're going to use these by stringing them up in the tree, and we'll use these as our points of light. Now, I've also brought along with these lights a handful of clothes pegs, somewhere in my pocket. Just back garden clothes pegs. You can use alligator clips or crocodile grips or whatever you've got. And we're going to string the set of lights in the tree behind what's going to be our subject. I'm going to use this leaf just for demonstration purposes only. And we'll see if we can get some nice points of light in our couple of images. So we'll do that now. So as you can see, we've got our string of lights in our little tree branch behind my subject, which is this leaf at the moment. And I'm going to set the lens at 1.4, so I've got a large aperture, and it should throw the points of light into little specks of bokeh. And I'm making sure that the distance between the subject and the lights is about double of the distance between myself and the subject. Now, one other thing I'll just mention here, I know earlier we were talking about the tripod. Well, I'm getting a pretty fast shutter speed, so at the moment I'm probably okay without the pod. Keeping in mind though, I've got to keep perfectly still So I don't want that focus coming in and out with a very, very, very narrow depth of field. Now, I'm looking in the back of the camera, and I'm just seeing that my points of light are looking quite distant because I'm using a 24mm lens. Earlier we talked about a hack. If you don't have a lens that's that super fast, if your lens is 5.6 or f8, usually there'll be longer lenses, zooms or telephotos. Now the hack basically is that we have to stand further back from our subject. So we need to go back probably double the distance or more in order to compress the picture with the natural compression that comes in with longer lenses. And that's our hack, and it works really well. So we're gonna do that now. I've got a longer lens on the camera, and I have put it on the tripod this time because with a longer lens, it's gonna be more difficult for me to hold it still and get a good clear picture. Now this lens is a 2.8 lens, but I set it at f5.6 just for demonstration purposes. And I'm gonna get a shot of our subject, which is a leaf, and with those points of light in behind. If you notice, I'm further back from the subject. Therefore, I'm compressing the picture through the natural compression of a longer lens. If the weather is just too bad or you have no time to find a park or a forest, experimenting at home is a simple task too. Use anything from kids' toys to billiard balls or even coffee cups as your subjects. And you can use that string of lights as your light source too. Shooting in the evening or night in a city or town is a bit of a no-brainer when it comes to bokeh images. There are just tons of lights to use. This is even more spectacular around the holidays. Now, I've been banging on about background bokeh for the last little while, but it can be just as effective as a creative device if used in the foreground. Same aperture rules apply. But instead of having the light source behind your subject, we move it in front. This can be naturally occurring light or artificially introduced, like our string of lights. You might need to play around with the perspective a little, but with trial and error, you should get some nice images. So that's it for our look at bokeh. I'm Doug McKinlay for Adorama TV. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to Adorama TV for more great videos. And tell us what you think. You can like or comment on this video. And please stop by the Adorama Learning Center for more great tips and tricks.